Hi, and welcome back to another episode of All In on Gaming. I'm your host, Joseph Lohmann with CPI, and I'm joined today by Deana Scott. Welcome, Deana.
Thank you.
You are the CEO and founder of Raving Consulting. And while people may not recognize that name, I guarantee you that they probably recognize the name of your publication, Tribal Gaming and Hospitality, which is obviously focused on tribal gaming. So welcome.
Thank you. Yes, CEO and owner. Happy to be here.
Tell me a little bit about the magazine. What does Tribal Gaming and Hospitality cover, other than tribal gaming?
Well, there you go. Interview over. I'll give you a little bit of history. So, Raving itself has been around 27 years, and we started the magazine about 6 years ago. We refashioned a publication that we had into what you see today. And the reason that I felt it was important to do that is that there really wasn't a voice for tribal gaming and hospitality that really focused on all of the good work that tribes are doing. There's a lot of misunderstanding, not only in the US, but internationally, about tribes and what does all of that mean? And even within tribes, I would hear, people think, oh, we got to look to commercial vendors to see what's going on, not recognizing that tribes really do lead in a lot of areas around technology and leadership development. They're very innovative, and there wasn't a place to share that. So we started the magazine as a way to share best practices operationally, share all the great stories that were out there that nobody was covering, and then also what are the new technologies and things that people are doing, because we're in an incredibly competitive business and things are moving quickly in business in general.
Yeah.
And so we wanted to be a voice for that.
Okay, let's just jump right into it. You said there's some misconceptions, some unknowingness around tribal
Sure.
gaming. What is tribal gaming? Explain it for me.
Oh, well, you probably need someone way better than me to explain the legal part of it. But, tribes were given the opportunity, like the federal government, to operate gaming. So they're allowed to have any form of gaming within their state or jurisdiction that the state or federal government have. And so tribes took advantage of that opportunity for economic development. Let's remember the history of tribes. They were, rounded up and put on reservations in areas with little economic diversity and lands that were considered, wasteland for some. And this has been an opportunity for tribes to discover self-determination and economic self-sufficiency. And I think in the beginning, and I've been doing this 30 years, people just didn't take it seriously. They didn't really anticipate that tribes would create the economic self-sufficiency that they have, that they wouldn't have the business aptitude to really compete in this market. And not only do tribes compete now, but they lead in a lot of markets with diversification in their gaming portfolio and the way they think about technology. And so here we are 30 years later, and tribes are a powerhouse in the industry.
And this is largely a U.S. thing, right? This is
Absolutely.
Okay, so that makes it a little unique, a little different.
Absolutely. And I think for people from outside of the U.S., when a vendor specifically wants to come into the market, because it's such a huge, there's a lot of money in Indian gaming, right? So it's, we're going to go to the U.S. and we're going to work with tribes, not recognizing that each tribe has its own, not only state regulation, IGRA regulations federally, but then each tribe has its own regulatory body individually because they're individual sovereign governments. So you work in the United States as a sovereign government, right? But each tribe in itself is its own government. So there's a lot of regulation in order to work with and understand tribes. But once you get in there and you understand how that works, you will find, great long-term relationships.
Okay, and let's talk about some of the benefits that have come out of this tribal game, and tell me a little bit about the economic, the social impacts that this has had over the last couple decades.
Sure, and I can speak to it personally. My husband is a tribal citizen, my children are tribal citizens. So I've worked in the industry as a tribal spouse for 30 plus years, and to see the tribe grow resources that benefit tribal citizens, from healthcare to education to housing, really life changing benefits, that has been amazing to watch in my career. But it's so much more than that. Tribes impact the communities they're in, most of the time being, if not, close to the largest, if not the largest employer. So you think about the money being poured into a lot of times rural communities, changing the infrastructure and the opportunity for people that not just work for the tribes, but the small businesses that provide goods and services to not only the gaming entity, but tribal government, the secondary businesses, all of the commerce around, a sovereign government, right? So it has been really remarkable to travel throughout the U.S. and just see that transformation and learn the stories of all of the tribes.
Do they also see it as an opportunity to educate, celebrate on their culture to the perhaps greater world?
Absolutely. Tribes are now, putting funds into building curriculum that never existed. I mean, if you just, growing up, I never learned Native history. I didn't really learn it until I started working for the tribe, and was shocked that growing up I had never heard any of it. And each tribe has its own specific story, and so to see the tribes be able to bring those stories forward, to begin to rebuild culture and language that was, decimated over U.S. policies, has been pretty remarkable.
And you mentioned diversification. How are tribes using these casinos, these gaming opportunities, to diversify into other areas?
Wow, so diverse. And it depends on the tribe, right? But from, cannabis is a really popular thing to talk about now. But tribes are building schools, banks, additional hospitality amenities, government contracting. My husband's tribe, when he was with them, built a broadband company that still works with high security government programs in the U.S. So it is all over the place: construction, architecture. And again, each tribe is its own sovereign nation, so they're able to create this diversification in a way that works for their tribe, for their region, for their area. And it is about creating generational change. So there's a saying of 7 generations or 10 generations. So I always thought if I did a good job working for my husband's tribe, that my kids and grandkids and their kids would have opportunity, that the community would have opportunity. And I guess I've been around long enough now to actually see that happen, which, to be able to work in an industry where the profits don't just go to an individual business owner, that they're changing communities, feels really good.
It's not a faceless corporation.
It is not.
It's a heart and soul of the.
Face of many.
Has this perhaps opened up additional educational opportunities in the workforce? Has it changed anything in that aspect? Because it is a big business.
Right.
Like there's a lot of skill and talent that needs to go
Yep.
into running a successful business, which they've done quite well. How has that changed the workforce?
Well, I think for tribal citizens, we're starting to see that next generation come in with the education that supports these, huge resorts. 35 years ago, these were pop-up bingo halls in a trailer, and nobody really knew where it would go, and nobody had the skill or the expertise. And today, kids see this, they don't know any different. Like, it's a large family business, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they can, become an attorney, work in natural resources for the tribe, run a hotel, get your CPA. And so most of the tribes in fact, there's not a tribe I haven't worked with that a number one priority hasn't been tribal citizen employment and education, and how do we give them the skills to run these operations. And that, in fact, also goes to other community members and non-tribal citizens. In fact, I just heard that the Choctaw Nation is offering free education to all employees, higher education, whether you're part-time or full-time through University of Phoenix. That's a huge opportunity for community. And it's just the commitment to be a great employer that changes people's lives.
And raising leaders, as you mentioned.
Absolutely.
They are, there's a lot of the new trends are coming from within the tribal
Yep.
industry. Talk about that. What are you seeing when you say they're leading the industry, how are they leading the industry? Give me some examples.
Oh, wow. Well, I think that...
Big question, I know.
I know. I think what makes tribes that are highly successful that possible is they're very nimble, because they have less of a corporate structure. They can adapt to changes or trends easier. So, as you know, technology is changing rapidly, and especially with AI. And so they're able to find opportunities and implement them quicker.
Does the regulatory structure enable or affect that in any way? I know we mentioned it's a little different.
Right.
There are the tribal regulatory, but there's also state and federal. The same ones that regular casinos face, or is it different?
It is different, and it depends on the tribe. Some tribes, and just like some businesses, right? Some businesses are willing to be more risky, or take, go after a trend that maybe isn't proven, whereas another business or tribe may not be. It really depends on the culture, not historic culture, but the business culture of the tribe. And so there's not a one size fits all. And so, a lot of times people want to, say tribes and put them in one bucket, and there's no way to do that. But I do think that there's a genuine desire to do well, and the properties that are, really making a difference and that other tribes are looking at are leading in technology, in solving some of the customer journey issues that make the experience rather clunky, because our technology does not connect and it's not compatible, and that can be a whole nother podcast. But it's facing the same issues that we all face: is how do we use technology to an advantage that improves the experience and improves the opportunity for the consumer.
Okay, so because of their structure, both corporately and regulatory, it often allows them to be a little more nimble, a little more exploratory,
Yep.
and lead the industry. So tell me about, you mentioned customer experience, customer journey. How are they leading in this area? What are some cool things that you're seeing out there? Where do you think the future is taking us?
Well, I think cashless, someday hopefully we just have a phone and not a card and 10 hoops to jump through to have our player connect with their profile, their play, and our games. And there are tribes out there that, over the last 5 years have really been testing it, and it's being adopted, and it's still a little glitchy, but somebody has to do it, and somebody has to be willing to champion it. And there are tribes out there that are doing it.
Yeah, we're certainly seeing a lot of interest in our cashless option as well, specifically with tribes, because it is a little easier to work with on this new type of technology. Agree with you there.
Yeah.
And that would solve the customer experience issues. How do you see that as solving customer experience issues?
Wow. Well, we want to be entertained in a way that isn't frustrating.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times, when you have to get out a credit card 3 or 4 or 5 times, we are such an instant gratification group now that the easier we can make the process of getting to the work of play, the more fun it can be, the better experience, the less frustrating. Extend that experience and you have a happy customer. And I think that starts before the player even gets to the property. It's based on how they interact with your app or your website before you get there, and then how do we recognize them once they're there.
Yes.
There's so much that layers onto that experience, and cashless is a big part of that once you're there.
What other trends are you seeing within the tribal space that they're perhaps leading in?
I think more interested in looking at EGTs as options in the table game space. I feel like that transition is going to grow. And I also believe, a lot more third-party outsourced food and beverage or entertainment that bolt on to the gaming property. Again, we're all trying to figure out what online and sports betting looks like in the U.S., which again is an additional podcast. But it's moving. It is very fluid right now, I would say.
So tribal casinos are obviously territory-based, like in a location. Easy to understand. When you move into the e-gaming, does that make it harder for them to enter that realm? What's the impact been on them with that?
Again, it's so different depending on the jurisdiction, the state, the compacts each tribe have. There's a real concern of tribes losing that market due to restrictions around the compacts. And I think tribes are still trying to figure out how to manage that individually and then hopefully more collectively.
Okay. So what else does the future hold, in your opinion, for tribal gaming or casinos in general?
My passion is the people. It's how do we improve the experience and how do we take care of the people that are in the properties with the guests? Yeah. How do we maintain that sense of service, the experience that we've created at those properties from a competitive advantage, making sure that our teams are taken care of. We are a tough business to work in, 24/7, And if you're a good employee, that just means you get to work 30 or 40 days straight because we're going to just wring it out of you. So I think it's up to us to focus on being better leaders and what that looks like, and investing in what is our largest expense, controllable expense.
Yes.
And recognizing that that is probably going to get a little more expensive.
So you're heavily focused on people.
Yeah.
You're an expert in all things casino. You're an expert in all things tribal casinos. The one thing we didn't talk about, mentioned in the beginning, you're the CEO and owner of Raving Consulting, of which TG&H, the magazine, is one of your publications.
Yeah.
We never talked about what you do from consulting, because you can help other casinos be leaders. So what is it? What services do you offer? How does that work?
Well, Raving, the company, has been around 27 years, and Brady and I purchased it about 10 years ago, so it is native owned now. And we focus on going into properties and helping them kind of discover opportunities to improve business, whether that is around analytics, which analytics and research are kind of foundational to making good decisions, whether it's around people or your slot games or your customers. So that's kind of a core pillar for us. And then leadership programs, we go in and help properties design based on our programs, a customized program around leadership. I would say player development and host program development is probably our, what we're known for.
Okay.
As well as guest service, measurable guest service programs. Again, we help the properties create their own. So when we leave, it's not Raving's program. It fits that tribe or commercial property, and we do work internationally, all over the world, actually.
It sounds like you help them become well-rounded, considering everything from technology, people, leadership, programs, all of that.
Yeah, we have what I love is a business optimization part of the business, which we work with Six Sigma concepts and lean concepts going into the casino environment to improve the operation, which again improves the customer journey. It can save expenses or find opportunities to grow revenues. So that's the fun part. That is what our team likes to do.
Excellent. So what does the future hold for Raving? What are your plans for the future?
Boy, good question. Just continuing to grow the brand. We are launching an online portal to enhance all of those programs I just talked about, and again, it's customized, so it can be for every tribe can have their own flavor on the portal, and that idea of keeping it going, with turnover and re-education. One and done training doesn't work, and it's a journey. So that's what we do.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
If you're interested in learning the latest in gaming, I'd encourage you to follow TG&H, Raving Consulting in Deana. And if you enjoy this podcast, please like, share, and follow. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube.